Hello, my name is Jean, and I am a severe traumatic brain injury survivor. I'm continuing on with my challenge to just reflect on my life now that I'm coming up on 10 years in July. So today we are going to be wrapping up my very first year. Crazy. Um, and about this time, I talked about how it was really basically excellent for most of it. Um, because I was in Ecuador and I was studying abroad. But when I returned from Ecuador, I had to come back to reality. And I think that was something that was a bit challenging. I also think that now in hindsight, I can only reflect on this as someone who is now in the future. But I feel like very, I don't know, not like disappointed in myself, but that's just life in general, is that you're probably going to behave in ways where things could have been better. And I feel like I was so critical of, um, you know, just like how people behaved who were older. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, how have you been around for so many years and you don't have it figured out? Wow, judgmental. But I think it's very common because when you're young, when you're little, you're just trying to make sense of the world. And so I think children are innately very judgmental because they're trying to categorize, they're trying to understand their reality and how they fit into it. And so that basically is um, what was happening for me in my first year. I was kind of like a new brain person. But I remember there's like this instance where on the trip there were people who were like a decade older than me. And it was just very fascinating to me now that I'm that age, like I'm coming on that decade. I just have so much, a different viewpoint of like the other people on my trip for their age and what was happening. So I think it's really powerful to have that ability to see the influence of time and experience and how that can impact me. But that's not the main point of this particular reflection today. I think the thing that I found most challenging was actually like learning about my brain in a more um, health system oriented way. So I had to go get psychometric testing, I think it was called. I literally can't remember now. But it's basically like 6 hours of like testing on your brain. And it's, you have to do it, I think, with a psychologist or something. um, and it's to test like different functional capabilities in terms of what your disabilities may be. And because I just came back from such a life-changing experience, I remember even saying in the office, I'm like, I feel like these findings are going to be off because you're catching me on the tail end of a time when I'm very happy and I've just made a lot of discoveries and I feel very enlightened as a person. But I don't know. I do remember that something that was indicated on the test was that I had really weak hands. So I kind of joke with my friends now in the future. I'm like, I have weak hands. And like people can have weak hands, but I think there's some kind of like neurological, I guess, situation where your hands are like connected to like some kind of like function, like it's an indicator for certain conditions. And I even think about because I have a right ankle plate, like I broke my right ankle, but it was from a fall while bouldering, which is like climbing in a gym without ropes. But maybe it's because I have weak hands and I wasn't able to keep the grip, like it like slipped or something, and I fell in a weird way. But the implications of having weak hands in the future. So I am not sure. But either way, I feel like in general, Q4, I think it was hard for me to wrap my head around that it was my first year, like just kind of how I am in the Q4 of my ninth year right now, and I'm trying to process my 10th year coming up. Imagine the first year. The first year was so wily. Like I I could hear. the beginning, right? Q1, I could literally hear blood pooling in my brain. I was having pressure in my mind. I think I'm also starting to develop some like symptoms too, like in the healing, like my smell is distorted. I have headaches, I have vertigo still, I fall. I don't think like sleep paralysis was as normative yet, but I wasn't out of the woods is how I put it. What is this in the background? I don't even know. It's probably like some like apple drink or something, but I put it there because I remember after my big test, I went to Cargo Coffee Shop and I just went there for my break to get a lunch because that was just something, it's such a long test that you do part of it and then you get a break and then you get to come back. So I haven't ever gotten it again. I don't know if I need to. My touch bases with the healthcare system were very disjointed, but that is just, I think that has been something that has been hard for me even to this day is just how the system is not that much better. Maybe it is comparatively, but it still has a long way to go. And maybe I guess one thing to be encouraging and empowering is you don't always, I think the best thing to do is to do what's best for yourself. And what I mean by that is like knowing what you need, right? Like, what do you need to heal? And when I say do what's best for yourself, I don't mean like be selfish and just like be so self-centered and not care about other people. To some extent, when you're in survival mode, you have to be a little bit more self-centered because you're coming from so far behind and you have so little energy and so much of it needs to be divested towards healing. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to set your boundaries, to keep focusing on healing. Um, but like, really appreciate the people who are helping you along the way because you'll make it a lot farther if you're able to learn how to lean on other people to ask for help and then give back when you can because I know that was really hard for me is that I didn't have as much that I could contribute. But now that I'm nearly 10 years later, I'm grateful that I have had some opportunities. So, anyways, super tired, but that will be it for today. So, thanks for tuning in.